May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I'd like to invite you to spend about 30 seconds, half the time the 8 o'clockers were asked to do this, to think about a time that you received hospitality, a time that you were the recipient of hospitality, the situation and how you felt. Hospitality. How did you feel? A word or two?
No.
Grateful?
No.
No. Oh. Known. Okay. Known. Awkward. Content. Relaxed. Thankful. Grateful. Humbled, family, blessed, faithful, taken in, overwhelmed by their generosity. Hospitality rises up as a focus coming from the reading from Hebrews as well as the Gospel of Luke. When I was growing up, a man came to live with us in our home. My brother and I were probably less than 12 years of age. He just kind of appeared, and we were told we were to call the man Uncle Bill, and he was looking for a job and would be staying with us for a little while. My memory of Uncle Bill is at the dinner table, because there had been 4 of us, and suddenly there was 5. And that's basically it. Then one day, he disappeared. He was no longer around. So years later, my mother shared that Uncle Bill had pressed too much for her to prepare his eggs just the right way for breakfast. And that she was not going to have that. She suddenly had become his personal chef, and that was just too much. So Uncle Bill had to go. Hospitality extended, hospitality received, but then hospitality taken for granted. Last year, a man calling himself Michael the Archangel came in through the office corridor and then into the office suite. He was quite agitated and he was upset. He was complaining about something that happened to him at Toco Hills. He'd been mistreated, and he came up here to tell the church that the folks down there weren't right. So I talked with him, and we took him to another place. He calmed down. Someone went to Toco Hills and brought him back a hot lunch. He ate it in the parish hall. Someone continued to talk with him. The people in the office were frightened and locked the door. But Michael the Archangel had a meal. He wanted a journal and some pens. So Kristen was able to round those things up because he was missing that. And he went on his way. From the letter to the Hebrews, let mutual love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some have entertained angels without knowing it. So we literally entertain Michael, the archangel. The people were afraid, and rightfully so, because he was not stable. The idea of hospitality was different among the early Christians. For the most part, opening one's home to strangers and offering food was outside of the ordinary. It wasn't something that was done. As people traveled around in those regions, they either had to make do, taking risk. But when Christianity began to form, there was a sense of hospitality, welcoming the stranger, giving them a safe place to rest, a meal to eat, and then on their way. Of course, all in the absence of hotels, restaurants, things like that, the extension of kindness and appreciation. Today, the hospitality industry includes lodging, food, beverage, recreation, all sorts of things, generating billions of dollars of income. Unfortunately, frontline employees are usually poorly paid, but the industry is supported by the ways in which they engage the customer, offering excellent service in order to foster repeat business. So those traveling from place to place today and enjoying the hospitality industry are those who can afford to do so or pretend that they can. Along the way, hospitality has changed from what it meant in the first century to today. Today, it has been extended beyond the private home to public spaces, to our own personal space around people that we may engage. So there's this intersectionality between the public and the private and the personal. All opportunities to engage a person, a situation, to extend hospitality. Several years ago, when I was still eating beef and my daughter was very young, I used to relish the opportunities to stop by Burger King when they had the sign, 99-cent Whopper. So one day, as we were driving by, I said, great, let's stop and get a Whopper. And I had to tell her, you can't. This was a punishment. She'd done something. No Whopper for you today. You'll have to eat regular food at home. Oh, Mom. So we're waiting in the line, and a man appeared, and he was asking people for money. He said, I want some money because I want something to eat. So I just said, no, thank you. And so while I was sitting there, I thought, well, gee, Whoppers are only 99 cents. I can buy a Whopper for this guy. So I did. So pulling away from the window, I kind of looked around, trying to see what happened to the man. And I thought, well, he's on foot. He couldn't be too far away. So I proceeded to drive down the street and spotted him near a bank. So I drove over there. But there was another car there, and someone had gotten out to go to the ATM. So I kind of handed the bag out of the window and waved, here's the food that you wanted. He said, shh, don't say anything. And he came over and he said, I have food, I need money. So I thought, oh, well, I tried. And my daughter saw the window of opportunity and said, I guess I can have that Whopper, Mom, right? You don't want it to go to waste? Well, sure. Yes, why not? Yes, the bottom line message is that we all have an interest and a care in helping other people, but sometimes we just don't know. You don't know if they're telling the truth, it's a scam, or whatever. But our hearts are in the right places, and I think that that's what counts. But also to get in the mindset of offering more than a Band-Aid, but to really form some sort of relationships to understand what it is people need. After all, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We heard today, read in the scripture. and a cursory reading of the Gospels tell us that Jesus' interaction with people left them forever changed. We don't find that the man who had a withered hand was coming back several times to Jesus. Jesus offered opportunities for healing, reconciliation, restoration of people being returned to their communities. This was a public hospitality that Jesus showed most of the time. A sense of grace, a sense of renewal. I've been wondering what it might look like if we tried to offer a modification of the invitation that Jesus talks about in the Gospel of Luke. Extending an invitation to people, say at Thanksgiving. Now, last year at Thanksgiving, I was here for the service, and I kind of looked in the room and didn't stay because I had some family at home. But I noticed that everyone there appeared to me were church members. So I began to wonder, what would it be like if some of the clients who go to Toco Hills were to join us for a Thanksgiving meal? So I inquired of a staff person, and I was told, well, the flyers are placed down there, they just don't come. Well, I crossed paths with Lisa, the executive director at Candler School of Theology this week, and I said, hey, Lisa, now, do you think this could happen? No, she's a new executive director, still new. And she said, well, we can think about it. Let's find a way to work towards that. What if we were having a Thanksgiving meal and not thinking about those people, although Jesus said invite the poor, the crippled, lame, blind, basically the marginalized of society, but not thinking those poor people, but realizing that God has created each of us equally. Each of us have some sort of gift to share. What would it be like to sit down with someone who is food insecure and find out what their gift is? Instead of, here's a handout, thank you, go on your way. Perhaps it could be the start of forging some relationships where we could help a person move from being food insecure to security, from being homeless to having a home. The possibilities are endless. So it may not happen this year, but I'd like us to think about it, to consider what we would need to put into place to have a Thanksgiving Day meal that included other people intentionally. Of course, everyone is welcome, but what if we tried to reach out to the folks that come to Toco Hills? They're closed Thanksgiving week. They offer no services. So the purpose of this meal, again, would be to get to know other people, not a movement toward evangelism or thinking someone would put something in an offering plate, but simply because we are all children of God. And to come together on a holiday for this country and Thanksgiving, I think would be phenomenal. So let's think about it.